the Supreme Court and its ruling in the president's use, blocking basically the president's use.
That was wild how that was only 7-2. I mean, if the Supreme Court had any integrity, it would easily be 9-0. Like, this is so clear. If the Alien Enemies Act requires that this person is a part of a group, then you have to enact some kind of status due process in order to determine if the person is actually a part of that group. Which means, just like Amy Coney Barrett said, or any of the other judges that ruled against this, the 7 judges, 4 of which were conservative, that you cannot do 24-hour deportations because you'll have too many mistakes, because the Alien Enemies Act necessarily, in its text, in its statutes, requires some level of due process. It does not give the president infinite power. So the fact that there was even 2 judges on the court that disagreed with that is insane.
Certain people who have entered the country illegally. Here's what the Venezuelan opposition leader has to say about what's going on there. Listen.
Under Maduro, Venezuela's energy, oil and gas industry has collapsed. Those companies all actually operating in Venezuela are forced to partner with a criminal.
Venezuela is kind of just at the whim of the oil and gas market, to be honest. Like after 2008, when the oil price crashed, like that was a big part of why their economy just went absolutely down the drain. And that's the problem with having such a one-sided economy. That same thing goes for Argentina as well. But I don't know how much of that is. I don't know how much of the oil and gas market you can relate to Maduro. Like, I'm not an expert on these politics, but on Venezuelan politics, but
structure with a drug cartel. President Trump's decision is the right one. We need to move forward, cut these sources flows going into the criminal Maduro structure. Remember, Maduro is the head of the Tren de Aragua.
She's saying the leader of Venezuela is the head of Tren de Aragua. Your comment.
I'm not sure how factual that is. I feel like I would have known that. I'm not sure that's true. I'll have to check after.
My comment is that lady is exactly on target. Maduro is a crook. He's a thug. He's a communist, or whatever you want to call him. He kills people. He's emptied his prisons and his insane asylums out, sent them north to the United States.
That is not true. He's not sending insane asylum patients over to the border. That's like just a lie that people keep talking about. I mean, you'd think that people would stop saying it by now due to the fact that there's no evidence for it, but you can't stop this guy.
Trump, John, is doing everything that he possibly can to secure our nation, to enforce the law, and the courts are simply just tying his hands. And
Which branch of government is in charge of the law? So the executive branch is in charge of enforcing the law, not saying what the law is. That's the courts. And he has a problem with the courts, which are way conservative right now. 6-3 on the Supreme Court. So he's just completely wants to dismantle the integrity of our 3 branches of government. He wants the executive branch to do whatever it wants, interpret the law how it wants, bend the statutes however they want, in order to enforce a law that is not the one that we have written.
Using a centuries-old law, as you mentioned, the Alien Enemies Act, and that's a national security emergency here. This is a constitutional aspect of this thing, and there are indeed enemy aliens amongst us. And so we need to swiftly be able to remove these foreign nationals tied to these dangerous regimes like Venezuela, and that's no excuse.
You can take a little bit more time to figure out if they're actually a part of dangerous groups. Like, you don't have to do it in 24 hours. Trump just likes to do that for his ego. I think it's just narcissistic tendencies, to be honest. You could take more time to determine if a tattoo or testimonies or clothing or jewelry is enough evidence to assign someone to this group that will immediately strip them of any due process that they might have. Like, give it a week, maybe not 24 hours. Just don't put them on a plane. Put them in an El Salvador prison where they can't get back. Even though they're innocent, they had no criminal record here or in El Salvador. I mean, there's other ways to do this.
Exception. And I tell you this, the Supreme Court just made it harder for our president, who got elected on this issue, the biggest issue, I think, to remove and deport illegal criminal aliens.
Wait, did this guy just discover checks and balances? Where one branch of government makes it harder for another branch of government to do whatever the heck it wants? I mean, take me back to middle school.
And I wish they would just tell this to the families of the people who have lost loved ones. For instance, Jocelyn.
Or tell this to the people that have been wrongly deported.
Dungaray, right. Or Laken Riley, or some of these types of people. Explain that what you're doing. When you're making a decision like this to block the president from keeping us safe. I can't tell you how disappointed I am in the Supreme Court. I'm very proud of Justices Alito and Clarence Thomas, but the rest of them I'm really disgusted with. They are tying the hands of the president and greatly endangering.
Again, that's their job, to tie the hands of the president. They've done other rulings that I haven't liked. Amy Coney Barrett's been pretty good, but the presidential immunity ruling untied the hands of the president in the biggest way that you could possibly fathom. Horrible ruling. At least Amy Coney Barrett partially disagreed with that in her partial dissent. But the fact that this court voted against what this guy believes is just all you need to know, really.
American lives and property going forward. I think the president might need to start looking at some of the history books the way Abraham Lincoln and Andrew Jackson treated the Supreme Court.
As we say goodbye, I just want to put up a graphic on screen that shows what's happened to the number of migrants crossing the border. 4,297 a day a year ago, April 2024, 297 a day this year.
So you have to ask yourself, what is the cost? What did it cost us to go from 4,000 to 300? It didn't cost us Border Patrol agents. It didn't cost us any more. It didn't cost us a wall. It didn't cost us anything like that. The border has no more coverage than it did a few months ago under Biden. The reason why it went down so much is because people have no rights to plead their case in front of an immigration judge. And previously, that's what people were doing. 8,000 people, about 8,000 people were getting their asylum cases accepted before, and now they're completely shut off from asylum. So the people who are coming up to the border now are just completely clueless because they don't know that they don't have any rights anymore. So if they're being actively persecuted by a group or because of their identity, then they have no rights. But for the rest of the thousands of people that would have come up to the border, had they had those rights, are now in danger. And by the way, directly in the vicinity of the cartels, which we just named terrorist organizations. So kind of hypocritical.
Here, 93% drop. Texas Republican Congressman.
Doing a great job, John. And my daughter-in-law, Jenna Lee, says to tell you hello.
Well, hello to her. Miss her around here. Texas Republican Congressman Brian Babbitt. Thank you.
Hey, Sean.